Combined yardage for punt returns, kick returns, receiving yards, and rushing yards in his rookie year were 1,604 yards. That was quite an entry into the National Football League. In those years, it was called the American Football League with the Denver Broncos. The American Football League is now the AFC. They were called the AFL. They were a separate league back in the 1960s. Now remember, when I say about his combined yards, 1,600 yards, those are the days when we only had a 14-game season. We didn't have 16 games like we have today. By his third year in the league, Floyd averaged a league-high 5 yards per carry and established himself as one of the most, if not the most feared running back in pro football. In 1971, he led the NFL in rushing with 1,133 yards and became the first 1,000-yard rusher in Denver Broncos history. Up till then, no one had rushed for 1,000 yards in Denver. Floyd is also a terrific pass receiver on the backfield. I talked about this versatility. Now, he's been a punt returner. He's been a kick returner. He's been a running back. Now he's also working as a receiver out of the backfield. And in the last 5 years of his 9-year career, you know, towards the end of a career, we think of players having diminishing skills. Floyd kept going up. His last 5 years with the Broncos, he averaged more than 25 receptions out of the backfield for those final 5 years of his career. He also each year, and he had a combined, during that same period of time, a combined 32 touchdowns rushing and receiving. He was a 5-time Pro Bowl pick and named him, and in his career, this is an amazing number. In his career, he had over 12,000 yards during 9 years in pro football. In 2011, and I talk about, you know, how he was a great pro football player. Floyd, during his career, was a great community person. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But in 2011, he went back to Syracuse. That's where he was an All-America at Syracuse. He went back there to become a special assistant to the athletics director. He assists the program's representatives as well as a football student athlete. He assists the program he represented so well as a student athlete himself, working now with student athletes and the alumnus. The 3-time All-America and 5-time Pro Bowl selection is responsible for development and donor relations, assisting with student athlete and team development, and prospective student athlete on-campus recruitment activities. In addition, he handles special projects as assigned by the director of athletics. And as he said, that means that he does everything that the director of athletics doesn't want to do. That means that he's a very, very versatile player on the team today as an administrator. Floyd is the recipient of more than 18 Professional Athletic Achievement Awards and more than 31 Distinguished Community Awards. That's the one thing I wanted to really emphasize here for this program today. More than 31 Distinguished Community Service Awards during his career. He's been enshrined in 7 Halls of Fame. 7. I can't even think of 7 Halls of Fame that you would be eligible for. But he's been enshrined in 7 of them. And in 2012, he was recognized by the Walter Camp Football Foundation as a distinguished American. In addition to his being elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, he's also in the College Football Hall of Fame, has been honored as a Syracuse University letter winner of distinction and recognized by the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame, the Denver Broncos Ring of Honor, the Gator Bowl Hall of Fame, the African American Ethnic Sports Hall of Fame, and in 1992 was recognized by the NCAA Silver Anniversary Award. Floyd also, beyond going to the Syracuse University, he graduated from University of Denver's College of Law in 1975, and then went into business as a manager, owner of a Ford dealership and Ford executive management graduate training program. Floyd Little, as I mentioned, was a great football player, but that part of his community is something that is remarkable. I'm going to ask Floyd, when he comes up, I hope he will, to make a few mentions of something that earned him the distinction of being called Mr. Bronco. He really saved the Denver Bronco franchise. If you can imagine a player saving an NFL franchise, it really, truly happened, and it was done by Mr. Floyd Little. So without, I think we want to run, at this point, if I'm not, we want to run a short video clip just to give you an idea of Floyd Little's career in pro football.
It could be argued that without Floyd Little, there would be no Denver Broncos. In 1967, Little became the first #1 pick to ever sign with Denver, and his success and popularity sparked interest in the team and prevented the relocation of the franchise. We go, Floyd! From 1968 to 1973, nobody in pro football rushed for more yards or had more yards from scrimmage than Floyd Little. He made the Pro Bowl 5 times in his 9-year career. And when he retired, he was the 7th leading rusher in NFL history.
And ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure this morning to introduce you to and hope you will welcome Hall of Famer Floyd Little.
Wow. That's good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Wow. That's really nice. That's really, really nice. You can't imagine how happy and proud I am to be here with you this morning. I'm just so excited that the Pro Football Hall of Fame reaches out to our students in our schools all over the country, just not in Ohio, but for everywhere. But when I was thinking about what Joe was saying about my journey, and it's been a tremendous journey. You just can't imagine growing up in an area where no dad and having to fight to get home every day from school, and to be here and be a Hall of Famer as a result of the commitment I made to myself and to my mom to do the best that I can do and be the best that I can be. This is an opportunity of a lifetime because it's not about where you start in life. It's about where you finish. I started in an area in New Haven, Connecticut with no money, no promises, and no guarantees that life would be fair. And I wound up in Canton, Ohio. I was always told I was not big enough, strong enough, smart enough, or fast enough to compete on a high level, especially the National Football League. But I realized very early that someone else's label or opinion of me doesn't have to become my reality. My goal was to be the best that I can be. Over the years, I've gotten to know people like Mike Tirico, who you probably hear on Monday Night Football. And Mike and I become very, very good friends. And Mike said, there's 10 things, Floyd, all of us need to know. In order for us to survive in life, there's only 10 things we need to know. And I'll tell you what that is. If you're competing at anything in sports or in life, these are the 10 things you need to know. In order for you to succeed and be the best that you can be, these are the 10 things you need to know. If it is to be, it is up to me. If you are going to reach the level of success in your life, you got to do it yourself. I've known that there's 6 fundamental components that are consistent with Hall of Famers, but there are 6 components that all of us need to understand that will allow us to be the best that we can be in all the things that we do. 6 things. If you can know these 6 things in your entire life, there's nothing that you can't achieve. I'll tell you that 4 of them begin with D. And this is just not in sport. This is in everything that you do in life. You got to have drive. You got to have determination, dedication, and desire. Do you agree? You got to have drive, determination, dedication, and desire. These are the 4 things that begin with D. But these, the 2 that are significant about success, they're like your thumbs. You can't even pick up a glass of water without it. It's called commitment and sacrifice. If you have commitment in your life and you're willing to make a sacrifice in your life, you don't really need these 4. Because these are the most important things that we have to look at every day of our life. We got to be willing to sacrifice not going out, hanging out. We got to be committed to do the things that we need to do the best so that we can be the best that we can be. And it's hard when everybody else is having a good time, but you have to really make that sacrifice because life is short. And if you're willing to make a commitment to what you want to do or what you want to achieve, and you are willing to make those sacrifices that you need, you can't not be successful. I look at life as an opportunity. I look at life as challenges. I look at life as challenges and obstacles. We've all are on certain journeys in our lives. There's certain opportunities that we have to face during our lives. There's certain hurdles we have to get over during our life. It's not easy. I took the SATs to go to college. I failed it 5 times. 5 times I failed the SATs. 5 times. I wasn't smart. I wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer. But I had a commitment that wouldn't quit. I was willing to make the sacrifices that you have to make to be successful. It wasn't easy for me, but I done it. Because failure is, there's no such thing as failure if you never stop trying. See, when we hit an obstacle, we quit. That's failing. But when you decide in your life that there's a goal or an objective that you want to reach, and I'm going to reach and I'm going to strive for it regardless of whatever it takes, that's what makes it happen. That's what makes success, overcoming obstacles. Failure is not an option in my vocabulary. I wanted to go to college. In order to go to college, I had to take the SATs. I failed it. I didn't fail it, I just didn't pass it. So I never stopped trying. Finally, I hit it. I went from 200 to 1,300. It's impossible to go 1,100 in 1 year. I did it. Same thing happened when I went to go to law school. Took the LSAT, same thing, same results. I didn't fail it, I didn't pass it. I took it enough times where I went to law school. I had no trouble in law school. I had no trouble in college. But I didn't quit. And what we have to do as young people, we have to look at things that we want to accomplish in our lives. And we have to find a way to make it happen. There's only 3 kinds of people in the world. Those that make things happen, those that watch things happen, and them that don't know what happened. You have to decide which one you want to be. And it's very, very hard and it's very challenging when people are all around you telling you what to do and how to do it. But you have to make a commitment. And if you understand what the difference between commitment and partial involvement, there's a distinct difference between commitment and involvement. The next time you sit down and you have bacon and eggs, take a look at it. You see that the chicken was involved in the process while the pig was committed. The pig had to give up an awful lot to break the bacon for you. And if you're going to succeed and you're going to win and you're going to be successful, you're going to have to give up some things too, like negative friends, negative habits, negative behavior, procrastination, and anything else that prevents you from realizing your dream. Life is short. You have a goal, you have objectives. If you want to be something, you want to be somebody, you want to make it happen, it's up to you. It's up to you. It's not easy. Nobody said it was. But I was able to do it. If I can do it, and I wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, if I can do it, so can you. But you have to be willing to make a sacrifice. And you have to be willing to be totally committed, not partially involved. If you understand that, there's nothing that you can't accomplish in this lifetime. It's not easy. But if you want to do it, you can do it. I wanted to just make sure that I let you know how I got here, how I got it, and where I started. Like where a lot of you are at, like where you are right now in your life. And for the Pro Football Hall of Famer to say, Floyd, I want you to talk to our young people across the country and share with them a little bit of your journey, the obstacles and the challenges that you had to make. That's why I'm here, and that's why I'm so proud to be here, because I see me when I see you. And I look at the accomplishments that I've had over my lifetime, and I'm just thrilled that I've had the opportunity to come back and hopefully share some of that with you. With that said, I'll bring Joe back up to do his part.
Okay, uh, what we're going to do is we've had a lot of questions submitted from the schools that are participating either live here or by our video conferencing, and we're going to pose them to Floyd, and then we're going to let some others bring in some questions as well. What we will do first, Floyd, if I could, because I did make reference to it, if I could ask you to just briefly tell a story. The Denver Broncos, while they're a very, very successful franchise in the National Football League today, struggled at one time. We talk about personal struggle. There are organizations, there are businesses that will struggle, and they need a savior, if you will. And when they drafted Floyd Little in Denver, he became that savior, not because they thought he would, but because he asserted himself and took on that role and said, I'm going to help this organization. There was a very important vote going on in Denver, as you hear in today's world about new stadiums. Well, back then, Denver had a horrible, horrible stadium, and it looked like they weren't going to be able to get a new one, and it looked like they might actually lose the franchise. And they turned to Floyd Little and said, what can you do to help? Floyd, if you wouldn't mind just...
Well, Denver drafted me. I was the first-round draft choice in the history of the Broncos to sign. They had drafted great players before me, Dick Butkus and Gale Sayers, but they never signed. This was before the merger. And Denver was on the verge of moving to Chicago or Birmingham, Alabama, the franchise. So when they drafted me and they signed me, it really allowed the Denver Broncos fan base to not only keep their franchise, but to get a program to build a new stadium. We played in an old baseball stadium called Bear Stadium. And when I signed, I went from door to door encouraging the people of Colorado to continue to support this franchise, which has now become one of the best franchises in the National Football League. But it was me going out and encouraging everybody, and I got the nickname the franchise. And now people don't even want me to sign other than Pro Football Hall of Famer Floyd Little, but they want me to sign the franchise Pro Football Hall of Famer because I was deemed or recognized for the Denver Broncos, and you can see what kind of great team they have now. But if it wasn't for me, I remember when Denver won their first Super Bowl, and John Elway had a golf tournament, and I came to John Elway's golf tournament, and he came and hugged me, and he said, thanks for keeping Denver Broncos in Denver. It's because of you that we have a franchise in Colorado. And I don't know that I did anything special other than do what I thought I needed to do, and that was to support the franchise that drafted me.
Typical of Floyd, he's being very humble. He went out and he was knocking on people's doors. And not, it's easy to go out and talk to groups, but it's a little tougher when you have to go out and knock on a door and make a case for something that wasn't a popular position in the city of Denver at that time. So it was a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication and commitment to his community. He gave back to the community that he felt was helping him. He helped the community more than probably he even realizes yet today. Let's start with some of these questions. We've got some great questions, and Floyd alluded to some of the answers already in his remarks, particularly about academic struggles and how he never failed. He simply didn't pass. He went back and continued to work. But could you tell us, Floyd, from Warrensville Heights High School, we had this question submitted. It says, what are some of the struggles that you endured during your pursuit to college and then to the NFL?
Well, I mean, the struggles like we all do is, can you do it? The challenge is a lot of us don't take tests well. A lot of getting places in this lifetime is being able to pass certain tests. And if you don't make it. But if you quit, you never make it anyhow. So it's just being persistence and attitude. These are qualities all of us have to embrace if success is in our future. You have to be persistent, and you have to have a positive attitude. So one of the things that you have to realize is one of the things that you have 100% control over is your attitude. You control that. Every morning I wake up, I say, today is the best day of my life, and tomorrow has got to be better. I can't wait till tomorrow. And that's my attitude. It's how your day goes is based on how you start it. And if you start it with a positive attitude that you're going to do something special today, you will have a great day.
We talked about citizenship, talking about how Floyd gave back to his community in Denver. But Floyd, and I'm going to go from memory here a little bit, but wasn't there an episode in your life where a little physical confrontation occurred that inspired you to kind of shift gears a little bit?
I thought, Joe, you would bring that up. I was a roughneck from the very, very bad areas in Connecticut where I grew up, and I had to be tough, and I was mentally and physically tough, and one of the strongest people that you will ever know. I used to lift and as a pro football player, over 450 pounds and clean over 300. As a person that's under 200, that's pretty strong. But in high school, actually, it was in junior high school where I didn't realize some of the rules, and I broke a rule, and I was uh, pushed up against the wall, and I fought back, and I beat up a couple people, including hit a teacher or two, and I was kicked out of school. And realized at that time that my life is actually going to end. And I begged every day to get back in school. I begged and I pleaded, and this one teacher, Robert Schreck, came to my defense and helped me back in school. And I became a model citizen from that point forward. And in fact, I became the class president. Here's a guy who was kicked out of school, now he's the class president. And my whole life changed having met that opportunity to get back to school and realize how valuable and how important that would be. If I didn't do that, if I didn't humble myself, like all of us like pride and all that, that you can't do nothing with that. Raising your voice and pulling your shoulders back and puffing up your chest, everybody can do that. But that's not what it's all about. It's about allowing yourself an opportunity to be somebody special, to give back to your community, to leave a legacy for your family. And I had to swallow some pride, beg to get back in school. And the teacher gave me that opportunity. And I have been a model citizen ever since.
Which goes to, as we learn lessons in life, Floyd learned a valuable lesson from the example of another, that teacher that came to his defense, saw something in Floyd, thought it was worth investing in, and obviously it paid off. I want to go to the Early College Academy from Isaac Butler. He submitted this question to you, Floyd. He says, how important do you feel accountability is on and off the football field?
Well, that's one of the 6 basic ingredients when you talk about respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, citizenship. It's about integrity. It's about loyalty. It's about honesty. It's about doing the things you say you're going to do, being responsible, being accountable. When you say you're going to do something, do it. You're supposed to show up, show up. Be there. Be that person that is accountable and be that person that's responsible. Let people know that they can count on you. That's one of the reasons why I went to Syracuse University. I was told that I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. But when Ernie Davis, the first African-American to win the Heisman Trophy, came to visit me, and we ordered steak and lobster, something neither one of us has ever had, and we went to the bathroom to talk about it, and 30 minutes passed, and I looked at my watch, and I figured that my steak and lobster was getting cold. So I turned to Ernie and says, okay, I'm going to Syracuse. But I really was just wanting to go eat. And 3 months later, Ernie Davis passed away of leukemia at 23 years old. And I knew right then I had to be a person of my word. Your word is so valuable. You don't own anything more valuable than your word. If you give that, you keep that. That is a mark of a person that has integrity. If I tell you I'm going to do something, you can bet that it's going to get done. So don't give your word if you don't mean it, because you don't own anything more valuable than that.
This is kind of almost a follow-up to that question, Floyd, and it comes from a different school. It comes from Altitude Academy at Crenshaw. And what has kept you confident in yourself after football? Where does your confidence come from?
Well, it's certain, we're all on a journey in our lifetime. And my confidence comes from knowing what my purpose is. I talk about GPS. Everybody would look at GPS as Global Positioning System. For me, it means grace, passion, and skill. All of us are given a grace. All of us is given a blessing. And a lot of us don't know what that is. But you can only find out what that is through your passion. If you are passionate about something and you're able to fulfill that passion And you can fulfill that by learning certain skills in your lifetime. When you impart that passion and fulfill your grace, you know what your purpose is. All of us have a purpose. And when you find out what that purpose is, that's where your life changes. If your purpose is not to be a person that's not going to leave a legacy, a person that's going to be disruptive, a person that's going to be malcontent. Your purpose is to do something special and be special, because all of us are very special. Each and every one of us has a particular blessing or grace, and we need to try to find out what that is. And you can't do it by being malcontents. So I believe that we all have a purpose and all of us are special.
You mentioned Floyd, and for those of you who are too young to know the name Ernie Davis, Ernie Davis was a great All-America running back at Syracuse and who died way too young. He was drafted in the National Football League before he could ever play. He passed away. But Floyd also attended a university where there was another great running back who remains a good friend with Floyd. His name was Jim Brown. Floyd, can you kind of tell the students here about how being around greatness can help build greatness, and how you learn from others the examples they set forth, not only on the playing field, but off the playing field? People in your life that have made an impression on you that helped you achieve the greatness that you have.
Well, you all know the name Jim Brown, who was probably the greatest running back in the history of professional football. But, around being with Jim, I've always established or recognized that if you want to be the best, you got to hang out with the best. If you want to be a better student, get better grades, you got to hang out with students that are better than you are. You want to be a better athlete, you got to hang with athletes that's got better skills than you have. Smart people tend to surround themselves with people who are smarter than they are, and they learn from them. Being around people like Jim Brown and Ernie Davis and others, I've learned. I've watched them. I watched their character. I watched their behavior. I watched the things that they do that made them great. So we can't be great on our own. It takes a lot of people, a lot of effort to be great. If you want to be the best, hang out with the best. If you know that student in your class that's smarter than you, befriend them. Hang out with them. Learn the study habits that they learn. Learn how to do things differently and better. And I think that you'll be better for it.
This one came from a student at John Adams High School, and it's kind of staying with that theme, if you will. He asks, or he or she, I'm not sure, how much discipline did it take to get to the Hall of Fame, and how much work did you put into your classwork?
Well,
and I'm going to add to that classwork. I mean, understand there's classwork in football as well. So,
well, I think that's important. All of us go to school, the athletes, but we're all student athletes. We're not athlete students. Your lifetime as an athlete is very short-lived. You can't perform as an athlete for so many years. And the most important thing is to get the knowledge and experience that you need in the opportunity that you have, whether it's in high school or college or any other kind of school, trade school, wherever you tend to go or want to go. But the education is one of the most important things, because that's the thing that's going to guide you and lead you for the better part of your life. So when you're done with school, you got to really prepare and prepare your family and provide for your family over a period of many years. So you want to have the opportunity to get the kind of employment that you want and that you need. So the preparation, and college is very important, but it's not the most important thing. It's one of the most important things to get the value of the education that you need. But a lot of us aren't built for that. A lot of us don't get that opportunity. So you have to make the best of what you got, and never stop learning, never stop trying, never stop pursuing your dream. Never give up is what I've always said. That's one of the things that I want to impart with you today, is if you have a desire, if you have a goal, if you want to do something, you want to be something, never stop trying, never give up. Because when you give up, you give out, and then you're done.
From Warrensville High School, there's a question, and I know the answer, and I'm going to ask it anyway because it's an interesting one, and I'm going to twist it a little bit. But the question that he's asking, or the person is asking, says, have you ever been cut from a team? Well, I know that answer, and it's no, but I want to go to one of the pillars of citizenship, or of character rather, is caring. You've been around a lot of players who were cut, and how do you handle that? How do team in sports, team is everything. So you've witnessed a lot of people who have to face disappointment, and how as a teammate do you help those facing that disappointment, and what would you do, and how did you react to perhaps friends even losing their jobs?
It's really hard when you get cut. I've known players that I played with who got cut, and all you can do is embrace them and let them know that life isn't over. The world doesn't end in sports. You have other opportunities as a result of being able to play the sport. People who play sports are much more further advanced than most people because they understand what teamwork means, what commitment means, what obligation means, what sacrifice means. I mean, these are the things that you learn being on a team that really put you ahead of the rest of people who've never been exposed to teams. I encourage everybody to be a part of a team, any kind of team, not just a sports team, but any kind of team, so you can understand the value of what it is to be a team player. I've never been cut, fortunately, and I can't imagine the feeling that it is to be rejected from a team that you certainly want to be a part of. But guys have gone on and ladies have gone on to do great things in their lives because they had the opportunity to compete. And being cut isn't the end of the world. But I can only embrace them and wish people luck and congratulate them for even having the opportunity to compete. It's just so important in our life that we can sit back at the end of the day and say, I competed. I just want to add another caveat to that because I can speak to a nephew of mine who's like my second son who got cut from the Seattle Seahawks. And one of the things that I told him that what he needed to do in order to make the team was to do some unconventional thing by running in the game and taking somebody out and putting yourself in. And that's not really acceptable in the National Football League. You just can't go in and take somebody out. But in this scenario, I knew he was going to get cut because it was at the end of the preseason and he hadn't played. So I said, Mike, you need to go in there and take somebody out and have your one day of playing the game that you've been working so hard over the last 3 weeks, 2 days to play. And I want to be down there with you when you go in, so I can say that you were able to play for the Seahawks. He never went in, and he was cut right after that. But here's the two things that you should never say. And if you can get through life and you never say these two things, you will be so successful, it's unbelievable. The two things are, I wish I had, or I should have. If you never say, I wish I had or I should have, your life would be so, so successful. Because Mike today, who's 40, he looks at me every time I see him and he says, Unc, I wish I had or I should have. So if you never say, I wish I had or I should have, your life will be pretty complete. And the only thing he regrets in his life that he never went in and had his one play that he was deserving of. After being in practice for 3 weeks, 2 days, I thought he deserved one play. And I think everybody who plays thinks a guy who invests or a lady who invests their time in a sport that they deserve one play. Don't care what you say, I deserve one play. Whether it's a good play or a bad play. I'm reminded of when I was in high school and they had 3 running backs in front of me and they all got hurt. And I kept asking the coach to put me in. And he kept saying, what you say your name was again? Go sit down on the bench. I said, Coach, all I want is one play. He said, what you say your name was again? He said, Floyd, I'm not going to tell you anymore. Go sit down. I kept, he says, okay, to get you out of my face, go in there. I want you to run this play. Let's see what happens. But let the other guy carry the ball. Well, you know I was going to let the other guy carry the ball. So I went in there and told the quarterback to play the run, and I ran 68 yards, and I went and sat down on the bench. Coach says, my goodness gracious, the next time we get the ball back, I want you to go back in. I said, Coach, I only wanted one play. He says, hey, don't be ridiculous. You go back in the next time. Well, I scored 5 touchdowns in that game. But you never know. I'm asking for one play. And all of us who participate, just like they showed the movie Rudy, you deserve one play. That's all. What's one play out of 60? Yeah. So we all deserve one play in life to show what we can do. Who knows? Be another Jim Brown. Who knows? No one knows. We all have to challenge ourselves every day. You have to challenge yourself, because none of us will never know what we can become if we never challenge ourselves. See, challenging ourselves and overcoming obstacles is what successful people do. We need to all challenge ourselves every day, because you never know. If you commit to yourself that you will challenge yourself every day, you can become someone very special without ever knowing what your ability or capabilities are. But if you challenge yourself to do the things that you need to do, you can become the kind of person you can be proud of and everybody else can be proud of. Thanks, Joe.
I have to tell you, I met Floyd's family, obviously, when he was elected to the Hall of Fame, and I got a new personal hero when you talk about challenge. And I hope, Floyd, if you don't mind, if I ask you to do this. Floyd's son, Mark, if you would share with the audience the challenge that Mark faced and how he overcame his challenges and what he does today.
Well, my son's a lawyer in LA, a graduate of University of Southern California, undergraduate and law school. But Mark got shot after he had graduated from USC on campus. They attempted to rob him, and he had no money, so he was shot close range with a shotgun. And he flatlined, if you know what that means. His heart stopped beating on the way to the hospital, and virtually he died. And they brought him back. And he died again. And they brought him back. And they had to amputate his leg. And for some reason, he was spared to present me to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, because we celebrate his life every year. He got shot in '87. And we go someplace and celebrate his life and cry and bond. And we played the song by a local guy that you all know, the OJs, Eddie Levert. He lost his 2 sons, Jerry Levert and the other Levert. And Mark and I played his song, The Wind Beneath My Wing. And my son is the wind beneath my wing. And when he stood up there and he presented me to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I just thought about why he was spared his life so he can present me to the Pro Football Hall of Fame 10 years later. But he overcame the obstacles of being an amputee and wearing a prosthesis or prosthetic. And he has a great career, great family, but he's overcome some serious obstacles. I mean, getting around with no leg, you just got to realize how a person would live without a leg since 1987. But he has no qualms, no problems, and he's my best friend.
He's also, what is also, in addition to that story, is law practice. He focuses on helping people. He focuses on nonprofits and people in need, which is, I think, part of his experience that probably drove him that direction. Really, to me, it was really an honor to meet him and get to know him a little bit, because he's really example of what we're talking about today in character. Floyd, here's a question from Chelsea Dorosky from Early College Academy, joining us with video conferencing. And Chelsea asks, which of the 6 pillars of characters is your strongest and which is your weakest? So between trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship, which of those are your strongest and which may be your weakest?
I don't know that I have any weak ones in there, but trustworthiness, to me, and responsibility, those are 2 real strong characters of a Hall of Famer. I mean, because it talks about integrity. That's very important to me. It talks about loyalty. It talks about responsibility. These are things that really, really, I look at and say, wow, that's the kind of person that I want people to know me for. The weak ones, I think I care about a lot of things. I think I'm involved in my community, with my schools, from a citizenship standpoint. Fairness. Fairness. I think if I would say one of the weaker ones would be, and I am fair. I treat people equally without favoritism, without prejudice. I do that. I mean, that's one of the principles of being a Hall of Famer: fairness, caring, citizenship, caring, respect, responsibility, uh, trustworthiness. I don't know that I have any weak ones, Joe, uh, but responsibility, fairness, caring, fairness would be at maybe the one that is not as high as some of the other ones. But I do care. I am a good citizen. I respect the law. Uh, I recognize those ingredients for a Hall of Famer. But yeah, I would think fairness would be the one that is probably not as high as trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, uh, fairness, caring, and citizenship. I would think fairness would be.
You see a man sitting before you today that is obviously a very humble man. But this question is actually asked in two different ways from two different schools. But well, it's kind of an important one, I think, as people look at you. And the simple question from Warrensville High School student is, uh, how does it feel to be famous?
Well, I'll tell you this. It's I don't feel any different. I was honored last week at the Duke Florida State game in Charlotte, North Carolina, as a legend of the ACC. A legend. I can't even spell that. But to be considered and honored, and I was the only one wearing a yellow jacket, gold jacket at the ceremonies, which I'm more proud to be a Hall of Famer than I am a legend. How does it feel to be famous? I don't feel like I'm famous. I'm like one of y'all. I don't know how y'all feel, but I feel like you. I'm not what you would call a celebrity, somebody who's famous. I ain't done anything that would make me famous. I carried the ball pretty good. I ran and I enjoyed the game, and I enjoyed it because they told me I couldn't play it. So I had to prove everybody wrong. Don't tell me what I can do. That's up to me to make the decisions of what I can do. Not for you. You can't look at me and say, you can't do this. That's not fair. You don't know me. Let me fail me. I've never failed anybody. People fail themselves. I will never fail you. You'd have to fail yourself. So Joe, I don't know that I consider myself as somebody who's famous, maybe someone who's recognized, but not famous. I can't put that title on me. I don't feel that I'm famous because I hobnob with everybody. Because we are somebody. We're all special. We all people with a purpose. And we're all special people. So I engage in not everybody. I'm not famous. I'm just one of y'all. You know what I'm saying?
Floyd, you use your notoriety. I won't call it fame. Your notoriety. You use your recognition, your visibility, and you use it in a way. And I know this from knowing you, to help others. And we were talking over dinner last night. There's a program that's been going on in the National Football League for many years. It's a USO program where athletes visit our soldiers in war zones. And if you wouldn't mind, can you tell us a little bit about where you've worked with the USO and how you've tried to help our troops?
Well, it is amazing because I really want to reach out to those that defend our freedoms. I went to Vietnam and before any of you guys were born, and just recently I was in Germany, Wiesbaden, Germany, to visit the troops that were just coming back from Afghanistan and to celebrate the Army's 238th birthday and cut the cake and the whole 9 yards and to speak to the whole brigade, which was an opportunity for me to reach back and say to those that we don't know, or a lot of us take for granted what our military people do for us, so we can have these opportunities to be free. I just need them to know that they sacrifice their time with their families and the things that they want to do in their lives to defend the freedoms that we enjoy every day. And by having the Hall of Fame allow me, through the National Football League and other organizations, to go and spend time with our military people that spend time away from their families so we can have the freedoms that we have, that we take for granted, a lot of us. And that's one of the greatest things of being a Hall of Famer now, that I can go back. And last year, or not last year, but a few months ago, I don't know when it was, Joe, but I took Hall of Fame pins that I'm wearing on my lapel. And for every one of our soldiers that I got to know and meet that were in the hospital at Vance Still Medical Center, I pinned one of these Hall of Fame pins on them. And I gave him a hug. And I said, thank you for defending our freedoms. And I may get a little emotional about that, Joe, so you better move on.
Well, where you share not only your experience, but you're sharing the Hall of Fame pin. That's that mark of excellence, that mark of achievement. I think that's an appropriate thing to give every service man and woman as they return from combat. But I know how you feel about being in the Hall of Fame, but would you share this? It was a question that came from John Adams High School. It says, how did it feel to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame? What was the emotion of reaching the pinnacle of your chosen profession?
Well, I got to tell you, there's no feeling like it that I've ever experienced. And I've had the opportunity to go to school with a Vice President of the United States. Joe Biden and I went to school together. And Joe invited me to the White House. And I had a tour of the White House and met a lot of the senators and everybody but our president. But I had a chance to go through places where nobody get a chance to go through. And that was really, really a tremendous experience that all of us would enjoy that experience. But I have not met an experience like being inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It changed my life. I'm no longer Floyd Little, Denver Bronco. My name has changed. I'm Pro Football Hall of Famer, Floyd Little. That is so significant that you can't imagine. There's only 280 of us. I'm number 257. Warren Sapp is 280. There's only 147 of us still around. But to be a Pro Football Hall of Famer, it's like an unbelievable experience. Like, I had a chance to talk to the incoming class of 2012, and I told them, I says, this is something that is unbelievable. To have a chance to wear one of these is something that most people don't get that opportunity. So anytime you're feeling sorry for yourself, or you're not having a good day, go put on your coat and walk around and know that you are one of the few people in sport that have a gold jacket. And it's a constant reminder of what your number is and what your class is. So if you forget, just look down here and say, I'm class of 2010, number 257, if you really want to know. But being a Hall of Famer has a significant meaning. I mean, my daughter had the opportunity to sing the national anthem at a game we played against USC at MetLife Stadium, a lot of people. And they said that now the person who is singing the Hall of Famer, the national anthem, is the daughter a Pro Football Hall of Famer and College Hall of Famer, Floyd Little. Please welcome. That's who I am. I'm a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Y'all don't understand that. That's significant.
You know, there's another part of that story that he's not telling you. The mere fact that they introduced his daughter as being the daughter of this Pro Football Hall of Famer suggests the level of respect that Floyd has, because his daughter is an accomplished Broadway performer. So
Sorry about that.
I think it really should have been the other way. This Broadway star is the daughter of Floyd Little, but it was the other way around.
Yeah.
Another thing, I keep coming back to Floyd's humility, but when he was elected to the Hall of Fame, we got a phone call, and it was the White House, and they said the vice president is unable to attend Floyd's enshrinement ceremony. I didn't know he was invited, but he said, would you be willing to play a video from the vice president of the United States, a tribute to Floyd Little at the enshrinement ceremony? We've never done this before, but who am I to say no to the White House, correct? So the vice president of the United States sent a personal tribute video that we played at the enshrinement ceremony, ran on national television. That's also a little tricky too, because this was during a campaign year. That the vice president of the United States is saluting a kid he knew from high school. And this is, again, to go back to that whole transition that this man went through. He went through this transition in high school where he'd been thrown out of school. Some years later, the vice president of the United States is paying tribute to him on national television. That's a transition that one should be very, very proud of. Okay, let's move on. A couple more questions here. I'm going to keep an eye on the clock here. Warrensville High School, where are you? Warrensville. All right, somebody in your group asked this question, and it's kind of a summary, Floyd, if you will. It says, what steps did you take in order to become a Hall of Famer?
What steps did I take to become a Hall of Famer? I don't know that there's a whole lot of steps you can take. I think it's the way you live your life, the things that you do, the obstacles you overcome, the challenges that you meet and face. But I don't think there's a particular step other than doing the right thing at the right time, being honorable, being trustworthy, being respectful, being caring, being a good citizen, being fair in your lifetime. These are the steps. I mean, the 6 basic ingredients that's really fundamental ingredients that are consistent with all Hall of Famers, not just in sports, but in life. But if you live your life in a certain way and you're always willing to help somebody and you are honorable and respectful and responsible, those are the steps, Joe, that you take to become a Hall of Famer. That's what Hall of Fame means. Being trustworthy, being responsible, being fair, and being careful, and being a good citizen. These are the steps that Hall of Famers all have in common. So if you want to know the steps to become a Hall of Famer, be a good student, be responsible, be accountable, be fair, don't judge folk, don't bully people, be the kind of person that you want somebody to treat you like you want to be treated, and be respectful to all of the people that you know in your life. And if those are the steps to become a Hall of Famer.
From early college academy, Levin Carter asked a very similar question. I can assume that the answer is the same. Levin asked, what does it take to be in the NFL? I would say those same characteristics would apply.
Exactly.
We also had someone ask, and this is kind of an unusual, because I know the answer usually that I hear from Hall of Famers when asked this question. We'll see if Floyd gives the same kind of response that we typically hear. Someone asks, let me find who it was here. Bear with me for 1 second. Here it is. Alexis Owens asked, what was your favorite football team growing up?
Cleveland Browns.
But why? Tell them why.
Well, because of Jim Brown. See, I was a Jim Brown fan long before I was a Bronco. Jim Brown was my idol and my hero, and he's from New York. And I said, this guy, if I want to grow up to be like Jim Brown. I want to be a run. And it's so amazing, Joe, that you would say that, because Jim Brown, our jersey was retired at Syracuse about 5 years ago. They retired the number 44 that Jim and I wore, along with Ernie Davis and Rod Conrad played for the Miami Dolphins, and a few other guys that wore the number. It was retired. And they asked Jim Brown to speak on behalf of all of the 44s, since he was the first one. We want you to have the opportunity to speak for all the 44s of a jersey that's we're retiring for life, and we want you to speak on behalf of them. So Jim took the mic, Joe, and I don't know if you knew this, but he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to have been a 44 for the Denver Broncos, but we have only had one 3-time All-American in this university, and that man is Floyd Little, and he should respond to you on behalf of all the 44s." And I was just devastated that Jim Brown deferred to me. Jim Brown deferred to me to make the comments. Can you imagine that? But that was one of the thrills, one of the few times I've been choked up because Jim Brown deferred to me to comment on being a 3-time All-American, to make the comments for all of the 44. So that was really interesting.
You didn't disappoint with your answer, Floyd, not because it was Cleveland, but when you ask a Hall of Famer what was his favorite football team,
Well, it's got to be my
almost,
team.
What he almost always goes to a team in which an individual impacted his life or made some sort of impact that led him to pursue a career in sports or a career in general. So you didn't disappoint me with that answer. We have just a couple minutes. I want to throw it out to the crowd here. We've gone through lists of questions that have been submitted. Would anyone want to pose a question to Mr. Little?
I'd hate to tell you. I don't know. I think I was destined to do and be something that was respectful. If I did not play football, I was a pretty good basketball player. You'd be surprised that I played center. Had a 43-inch vertical. I could stand flat foot and duck the ball. I played against guys 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", and out-jumped them. And I know I couldn't play basketball on the next level. And I didn't have a great shot, but I was a good shot blocker. I ran track. I set the world record in New Jersey, high school 100-yard dash at 9.6 back in the day. But what I have done, you know, I never thought of that. That is a great question. But I wanted to pursue a legal career. So had I not played in the professional football, because I went to law school while I played for the Broncos. So if I got cut, I would have just gone on and complained. I wanted to be a judge. I wanted to be that person that look at a person and look at their quality and character and determine whether he or she had the opportunity to get a second chance. Because all of us deserve a second chance. And I want to be a person in a position to help that. But I've never had that. Thank you. I probably would have just been a lawyer.
I'm getting a high sign in the back that we are out of time, but Mr. Little is going to be here even after the session closes. So a couple of you I know have some questions. Perhaps we could do some one-on-ones afterwards. But at this point, I'd like to thank Floyd Little for being with us here today. Thank you. And I'd like to thank all of you for being here and all of our video conference schools as well. Thank you very much.